Hello and welcome to the Dream is Real podcast. This is a place if you're looking to buy, sell, or invest in New York real estate. Before we get started, make sure that you like, share, subscribe, turn on those notifications. Don't want you to miss anything as we continue to bring you great content and great guests. I've got a great guest with me today, Daghan Hart of Interstate Home Loan Center. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for inviting me. I really appreciate it.
Awesome. So tell us a little bit about you, your journey. How did you get into the mortgage game?
Right. Yeah, I think everyone kind of finds their way a little differently. But I got out of the military in 2021.
Oh, thank you for your service.
Appreciate that. And I was looking to buy real estate. I'd done pretty well in some investments. I sold a business, and that was kind of the Wild West of buying. Then a lot of people were saying it was a bad idea, good idea. I was looking for a place more or less just to live, but I wanted some rental income. So I purchased a 2-family home, but with COVID, the tenants didn't want to move out. So I never actually got to move in. So I had to go and buy another house. And that kind of started my whole real estate investments, because I bought another 2-family home, and something very similar happened. The house, the one unit that was livable, was a disaster. So I had to rent that.
Was that here in New York?
Those are both in New York, yeah.
Oh, yeah, and that's very difficult when you run into that
Especially
situation.
the pandemic. It was so hard to get anyone out.
Fair enough.
And there were Section 8 tenants, so it was, I basically made a handshake agreement. I'll keep you, and I'll just find somewhere else to live. So I started buying real estate, and I had a mortgage guy, and he was great. He helped me through the whole process, but it got to the point, I think, after I did eventually find a place to live, and everything was good, but I bought some rentals in Florida, and I think around like the 5th or 6th property, he was, I don't know if we can use this program or this. And I remember saying to him, well, did you use the rental income on this unit for this? And he said, man, you're really getting good at this stuff. Why don't you should just get your license and everything like that. And he kind of put that idea in my head, because I got so good at running the numbers on what would be a good rental, and my own debt to income ratio, how to improve my credit.
Right.
And by the end of it, I was kind of doing the deals myself. So
it's amazing how the tough deals sometimes, when you're on that side of the fence, really you educate yourself to the point where obviously now you're in the profession, but sometimes you come across where more because you've seen it.
And again, not to badmouth him, because he was great, but there were things I learned on that side of the transaction a few times as a first-time buyer, and then as an investor using the VA loan. I did FHA with him, and now I know how to speak to borrowers, because you really do have to dumb things down as if someone doesn't understand the whole process.
Sure.
I get pretty educated, but I think it's good to be on that side of the process, and then get in as a lender and know how to talk to clients and things like that. So I learned a lot about the business, and then how to be a buyer, how to be an investor, how to deal with that whole side of it, and I think it definitely helped me get in the business.
I would have to say that's an advantage, right? Because we talk about it here fairly often is the financing piece of it. Whether you're a buyer, whether you're an investor. I mean, to be frank, if you're a seller, if you're not looking to take your money and rent, you're also looking in some cases that there's a lot of unknowns. Because there's always, the market's always changing, programs are different. So obviously your experience probably helps you to communicate to the prospective buyer what needs to happen, right? And you've probably seen a lot in the way of all the things that can come up in a transaction.
Yeah, I mean, just from my own personal experience, having stressful stuff come up, and I mean, in a real estate transaction, anything can really happen. Title issues, using income from my business that I sold to my assets to this, it gets complicated. So, it was definitely a big benefit. But, I've heard you say it on other podcasts that you do here. It's important having a good team. That's really the whole thing.
Right.
And luckily, when I got into this whole thing, the stars really aligned for me. And I always say I'm extremely lucky the way my situation worked out, how I got into the business, and with the rates coming down and people really pulling out of the market when I first got in. And I just happened to get a good team. My realtor was really on point, helping me find places. Even down in Florida, I had a rock star realtor, and always had a good attorney, and that lender really helped me throughout the process. So I think I got in at a good time, and that kind of gave me a good base to get in the business, and I had that strong team for a while, which was good.
Yeah, those rates being down where they were during that time. You think we'll ever see that again?
I hope so, but I don't know if it's healthy for the housing market. I think
fair enough.
I think mid-5s would be great. I mean, if we can get in the mid-5s, my business would skyrocket. I think anything lower would just be, because everyone was in the business. I mean, I got in during that time, but it really was crazy. So many no-name banks coming out of nowhere, just doing strictly refinances, and it really muddied up the business, I think. Now that rates have kind of gone up, it's trimmed the fat. I think the people who are in the business are really in it, know what they're doing, and kind of are the people who are working in the business full time. But I hope we do. I really do. I mean, it really was. I remember complaining. I bought an Airbnb in Florida, and my lender was like, "Oh, for investment properties, unfortunately, the rate's going to be around like 3.5%." At the time, rates were like 2.5%, and I was like, "Are you serious? Like, it's that much more for an investment property?" And I would do anything now for an investment rate. I mean, at 3.5%,
no question.
I can't believe I was complaining to him about that. But I mean, who knows? It seems like it changes every day with the rates. It's all news dependent, and people ask me, and I feel bad because my job is to guide clients and let them know when it's a good time to lock, what I think rates are going to be. But it was a lot easier to project things over the last 4 or 5 years than it is even this last year.
Yeah, and I know for our audience, that's a major question. That it's all right. Well, where are the rates going to go? And it's kind of a loaded question for me to throw into your lap too. Like, what's going to happen? You don't know, right? There's always talk, and then now there's bickering about what should happen and this and that. And if you talk to Lavar here, you look at is it a good time to buy? Well, it is if the price, if there's got to be factors that line up,
100%.
right? So from obviously, mortgages very broad, everything from residential to FHA versus conventional to commercial. You find an area where you gravitate and specialize in, or you full service?
I mean, I take any loan. If someone comes to me and they fit the conventional guidelines, I push them that way. But I think a lot of people that come to me see that I have like a rental portfolio, a lot of first-time investors, people who have homes already.
You're still very much active on the investor side,
yeah.
Right?
So I run my own Airbnbs, everything like that. I'm still in the market buying multifamily homes. I like long-term rentals. I think Airbnbs were good during the pandemic, and it's kind of a bubble now. I don't think it's really the best market right now.
Well, I was going to ask and maybe delve in because I don't know if we've really jumped into that too much. I know it's conceptually it seems great, but where do you think that bubble is coming from?
I think just because with the pandemic, a lot of people had a disposable income and purchased homes in South Florida. It was very easy to buy a second home. There was a lot of money in the market.
Right.
A lot of people were purchasing cash, over ask, and they were listing it as second homes as an Airbnb when they were up in New York. And the market was just flooded in areas that are high trafficked in Airbnb. And then when the market cools down, Florida had a lot of builders come in and build houses for almost nothing, and they're selling them for a lot cheaper. And the market really cooled down there, and it affects the whole rental market as well. If, you can purchase a house a lot cheaper now in Florida than even it was last year.
See, I would have thought it was the opposite, where maybe the cost prohibits the profitability, but you're saying that's not necessarily the case.
No, just because when you have so many people that purchase Airbnbs, just the more Airbnbs that are out there, you can't charge as much because there's so much.
Oh, fair enough.
Yeah, so many people have Airbnbs.
It's that old supply and demand, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm lucky the ones I have are in kind of niche markets, and I did a lot of research, and mine are in areas that aren't as affected. They really can't have any more inventory. But aside from that, they're cracking down. A lot of laws are put in place. New York just had a ban in the city, Airbnbs in the city. Where I have an Airbnb, they changed the law where you can only rent it for 30 days.
Okay.
So that's obviously renting nightly. If you can rent 30 days nightly, the rate you can charge is way higher than if you were just going to rent it for the month.
Right.
So, there's a lot of factors, but I think the market is really just kind of cooling down. But I always tell investors, if you're going to buy something as an Airbnb, make sure it makes sense as a long-term rental first. God forbid Airbnb just goes away one day.
Fair enough.
Your local, municipality says we don't allow Airbnbs anymore. That way you could always rent it, for the year and make money. If you're banking on some crazy nightly rate that you saw on AirDNA that broke down, or you can make, you can charge $400 a night for this place. So that goes away. You still have to rent it for the year like a normal house you would have to. So
right. So
that's what I recommend.
So the long-term play is still very much alive, well, and strong.
Yeah, I think that's always going to weigh. I can't imagine anything changing where you're not going to be allowed to rent anything for the year, pending it being like a co-op or condo that doesn't allow you to rent it out. You'll always have that option. So as far as if you're looking at it as an investment, that has to be your main play. Airbnb is a great thing. And again, there are times when the profit on Airbnb, if you spruce it up, Airbnbs also need a lot more care. If you have a pool, if you have landscaping,
right.
As a landlord, you can get away with tenants that are really relaxed, that aren't really asking you to keep up with everything like you would in Airbnb. If someone checks in and there's a sock on the floor, they're complaining Airbnb, this and that. You have to have your cleaners on point. You have to have the management company on point. You have to have, your pool maintenance, your lawn
They walk in,
maintenance.
they say, "Oh, the countertop's chipped." Meanwhile, long-term renter would be like, "I chipped the countertop."
Yeah, that's really.
I don't want you to.
I have
to
long-term
fix it yet.
tenants. I maybe speak to twice a year. You know, they mail the check and they're great. They take care of the place. But Airbnb is, you know, my phone blows up a lot just being in the mortgage business. But half of it's got to be just like Airbnb, people checking in, checking out, issues with this, dealing with just putting out fires, just like you know you would in the mortgage business. But long-term, that's what I say to people. People come to me and say, "Hey, I want to buy a Airbnb in South Florida or here and there." I say, you know, why don't you try the multifamily market first? Because it's a good stepping stone if you're going to become an investor, because it's a lot lower maintenance and you know you don't have to be as actively managing it as you would in Airbnb.
And I know you're here to talk mortgages for sure, but I appreciate you delving into that piece as well.
Are you a homeowner who is looking to expand your home so you have enough space for everything you need in your home? Or do you want to renovate because the interior just doesn't work for your needs anymore? Or are you someone who's looking for a property, but nothing that you've been looking at really fits what you need? Well, my name is Catherine Serrano Sosa. I'm the founder of Rooted Architecture Studio, and I can help you bring those renovations and adjustments to life. At Rooted Architecture Studio, we focus on creating meaningful, inclusive, client-centric designs for homeowners and investors. We walk you through the whole process of design and construction and making sure that you understand what's going on, but take away all the layers so you can sit back and just focus on the deliverables of what we're designing. We make sure that your non-negotiables are integrated and your wants and needs are integrated to the best of our abilities. So if you are looking to do anything that I just discussed, or just have ideas that you might want to talk about what the possibilities may be, give us a call and reach out through social media as well, and we'll be happy to help you. And if you're looking for a new property, make sure to connect with Dream Select Realty. They're the right people to help you find the right property for you and make sure that your needs are integrated. Or if we're renovating, we can all collaborate together to bring that vision to life.
Let's talk financing for the long-term rental or short-term rental market. What are some of the differences between the straight-up residential, this is my home purchase, versus a loan like that?
Well, if you're looking at it from an investment standpoint, the good thing is you get the rental income of the property. Whatever the property generates is going to be used as your income. There's a plethora of programs you can use to qualify income-wise, whether their business generates the income or the property is generating the income to qualify, or people use personal income to qualify. You get the best terms always with mortgages if you're using personal income to qualify rather than stated income or from the rental property itself.
Got it.
But, I mean, there's a lot of options out there. But the good thing is with the rental properties, you get that rental income. Let's say you're buying a two-family home and you're going to live in one unit. You get the rental income from the one unit is going to be added onto your income, and now you have higher affordability.
So it gives you more buying power to be able to.
Yeah, and it makes it a little more palatable, the mortgage payment, because let's say you buy a $600,000 house now, it's very possible your mortgage payments can be over $5,000 a month.
Sure.
If you're getting $2,500 a unit from one of the units, now you're really only out the difference there. So it's a lot more attainable than someone who's just buying a single family home. But as far as just completely investment, I mean, as long as you're putting down, obviously they require more money down than a primary purchase would be. You can go as low as 3%. But if you have the money to put down, you could use business income from bank statements. You could use profit loss statement from an accountant. You can use the rental income just from the property using a debt service loan. So, investors that are willing to eat the higher interest rate and just go with those programs, I mean, there's really a bunch of different options for them.
Great. And as far as the more conventional purchase, what are some programs that are out there right now, whether it be for the first-time home buyer or just incentives? Do you feel like the incentives right now are strong in the way of the programs that you see?
Yeah, I mean, New York's a little limited with programs. We have the big one is Sony May, which is just the first-time home buyer. You get up to 3% towards the closing costs or down payment. And then it's a lower interest rate than the normal conventional is. Obviously, you have the benefit of doing the minimum down if you're a first-time home buyer conventional, 3%. But other states, I do a lot of business. I'm licensed in Florida as well. They have a lot of really good first-time home buyer programs. A lot of other states, New Jersey has a program. But the thing is, what's the tough part about using these programs here in New York is they're all income limited. And to buy a home in Long Island, you really need a lot of the cutoffs are 120,000 around that mark.
So if you could define income limited.
Yeah, so a lot of these programs have, whether they use the area median income, which is just the average income in that area, usually you have to be 80% or lower than the average income of the area. So let's say Long Island, the average income is 120,000. To get the benefit, you'd have to be at 100,000 or a little bit less, which makes it difficult to actually qualify for the house.
Sure.
If you're buying a $400,000 house in Shirley, it works all the time. But people who are looking at Nassau County and when the properties are starting at 650, you need the income of around 200,000 to qualify for the house.
In parts of Nassau.
Exactly. Sure. So if you need 200,000 total income, and a lot of these first-time homebuyer programs cap income at 140, 150,000, it's the max I usually see. It's tough to get people into those, if that makes sense. But the main one I'd see, which has a pretty large income cap, is Sony May. They're a great it's a city program, so it's a state program. So New York State has to be first-time homebuyer, have to live in it, and I believe you have to stay in it for 10 years, or else you have to forfeit that down payment assistance.
I was going to say that was going to be my follow-up. Is there a requirement for it being a primary residence? You think it's about 10?
Yeah, 10 years. If you take the down payment assistance, if you don't, they don't require that. You have to be there at least a year, but they don't have that 10-year gap.
What are some of the misconceptions that you see for first-time home buyers as far as what they need versus what is maybe not always required, or maybe just something that is they feel like is going to prohibit them, but someone like yourself can go ahead and get them financed?
Right. I think the biggest one I see is that people think you need like the cookie cutter 800 credit, 20% down, X, Y, and Z to qualify, when I have a lot of people who have the 20% down but don't want to actually use all their savings for the transaction. So I think people kind of they go through the whole process in their own head without talking to a lender, and they disqualify themselves before they even talk to anybody who can say, no, there is a program for this. So they say, oh, I have a low 700s. I only have 30,000. There's no way I can get into a house, when they could really put that 30,000 towards a down payment as the minimum, maybe get a seller's concession. And our job is to make sure that someone has options. And so if you go through yourself and say, hey, I don't fit the conventional 20% down, perfect credit score, cookie cutter thing there, it's really going to be hard for you to see your options if you're not going to speak to a lender. So I feel like a lot of people just disqualifying themselves before they even speak to somebody.
Yeah, and the answer is it might be a yes, it might be a not yet, but if you get out in front of things, and if there's any topic we talk about, I think most often it's you don't know what you don't know. I feel like I say that every episode to some degree, but if you don't get it out there and find out, you'll never know. Give me some examples of maybe someone who's come to you, with their hands up saying, I'm not sure if I'll get qualified, and you were able to find them the right program. Is there any particular deals that come to mind for you?
Yeah, I just had somebody, they just finished veterinary school, and they had around like $250,000 in student loans. And, they wanted to buy a house. They didn't really have, they're just starting now, making good money, but, thinking in their head, hey, I have all these loans. But really, on the loan side, we only have to hit them with the monthly payment, and we're able to apply for a income-based payment program for the student loans. So their monthly payment was reduced down from, I think it was like $2,600 a month to $800 a month.
So you were able to help them renegotiate their student loans?
Yeah, so they reach out to the student loan provider and apply through something called the income-based repayment program, which a lot of people don't know exists, but
sure.
They look at your current income and
Can you
your situation.
say the name of that program again?
Yeah. It's an income-based repayment program. So if it's a federal student loan, that's something you can apply through FAFSA and the student aid website. So yeah, it's on their portal. It's an income-driven repayment program.
And what was the differential between
it went from $2,600 a month, which pushed her out of any of things she can afford in Long Island, to $800 a month was her new payment on all her student loans on $250,000.
So she had, buy a house or not. Is that only for if you're moving toward a major purchase, or do these exist just to renegotiate?
Yeah, anyone can do that. At any point, you can consolidate, renegotiate, your student loans. A lot of people. So hers were deferred. So it's not that she had a $2,600 payment, but that's what we had. That was the payment we had to hit her with. Just because we were using a conventional loan, we have to, if it's deferred and a zero payment comes up on a credit score, we have to put a 1% or 0.5% payment on that loan, because we can't just say, hey, they have no payment just because it's deferred. Because one day, but if they get a payment plan, now they have a set number we can use, and we don't have to hit them with, the full payment. So, it's a good way to if someone wants to buy now, they can reduce that payment, which is obviously a good thing. And now we don't have, we have an additional, $1,600 a month in income to use.
I get it. So, and that happens somewhat. Correct me if I'm wrong. At a micro level, even if you have trade lines that you don't really have anything on, you've got to account for some sort of a monthly, even if you're at a zero balance on that, right? Because one day you will have a payment on there if you start to use those.
And I think going through credit with the lender is the best resource if you're planning to buy a house, because we can not only look at what's kind of bringing your credit score down and plan how to improve that, which everyone knows the credit score is a big driver in rate, no matter what program you're in. Lower mortgage insurance if you're not putting down 20%, the interest rate. But we can also plan how we can get you to a point where you can buy a house. So it might not happen now. Everyone has different timelines, but we can plan. I have clients I've worked with for 3 years that are finally now getting into the point where they can purchase, because they're looking for a cosigner, they're paying off debt. So a lender is not only there just to help people who are the perfect borrower ready to buy right now, but if I run someone's credit, I can tell them how within the next 6 months they can raise their credit score. We have simulators we can run. I could tell them how much they could afford now, how much they can afford if they find a cosigner, if you pay off this credit card, if you pay off your car, if you pay off this. There's certain things that you can do that can really significantly boost how much you can afford by just talking with the lender and figuring out the whole credit thing, because a lot of people don't really know what even comes up in their credit score, their credit report, until you show it to them.
Right, super valuable.
And I have people that didn't even know they're late on payments. You say, hey, you might want to reach out to this old utility provider that from when you were living at college and you haven't paid. I just had somebody, they owed a electric utility company from Ohio when they went to Ohio State, and it was in collections, and it was the only thing damaging their credit score. And I ran the simulator, and if they were to pay this off and settle it with the collector, their credit score was going to jump almost 100 points. So that was the only derogatory thing on her credit.
Wow.
Yeah. And she was already under contract. So I was like, let's handle this now. That way, by the time closing comes, we either refresh the credit score or repull it. And now we have the new score. It completely changes the terms that we initially disclosed, which was a pretty rough rate because she was in the low 600s.
Wow. So tremendous. And when something like that happens, you had brought up an instance where you're working with somebody for 3 years and then they get the house. As a mortgage professional, as a human being, how does that make you feel when you help somebody cross the finish line that way?
I mean, home buying process is very emotional. There's a lot of things. Not only is it the biggest transaction in most people's lives, it's different than any other investment, because you can't live in your stock portfolio. This is where people raise families. This is where their first house they move into. The one borrower that was for the 3 years, she had a daughter who was special needs, and she was crammed in an apartment. She wanted to have somewhere she could have her own space, and she still hasn't closed yet. There's a deal that's under contract, but this is my first paid lead I ever had. My first company ever, they used to do, I forget what the lead source was, but my company, my first Cardinal I worked at, they paid for this lead source, and she came in. I've been nurturing this lead since I really got into the business, but she really actively started looking about 3 years ago. She's upstate New York. She's in Syracuse. So I've actually never even met her, but we've been speaking on the phone over the last 3 years, just kind of going through this. So she got under contract. It's a multifamily home just outside of Syracuse. And yeah, I mean, it's just these people, when they finally get to close, it's really makes it worth it. Just as a human being, it's nice to be in the business and close deals, but the relationships you make, if you do the business right, these clients are going to be not only just clients for the future, they're going to refer you people, they're going to be your friends. Because even the lender I used my first transaction, I the first time I met him, he's got a kid that's my son's age, and both our kids ended up being at the same park. We closed all these deals together, but we never actually met. And someone who helps you get to that point in your life, it's a big deal. So it's one of those things that really makes the whole business worth it. There's a lot of BS you put up with, but that's all the work you get to is get to that closing table, and you get that first message, hey, we got the keys. And it really makes it all worth it.
Well, that one you just shared, that's going to be an awesome one. I want to hear when that closes. We'll be high-fiving.
Yeah, I'll definitely let you know. But yeah, it's that one's funny. The first paid lead I ever had, and for someone, she's just on Social Security. We had to find a house that had rental income. She had to use some money that just came in through the state for her daughter. So it was a tricky one, but yeah, that one should be closing here in the next couple weeks. Awesome. Any other advice that you would want to give someone? I mean, look, your experience is broad. From owning your own home to owning investment homes to helping individuals with
special needs. So what other advice would you give the market out there in terms of home financing?
Yeah, I think it's the most important part now is there's a lot of voices out there that say, especially I want to say the older generation saying, this house isn't worth it. You're crazy for paying this. It's hard to quantify what makes sense these days. But the way I like to say it is, these homes are always going to go up in value. It's hard I know the numbers is scary for a lot of people, but there's never going to be a time that I see where the market's going to dip, where rates are low, prices are low, that it's going to be the perfect time to buy. I see a lot of people that are so stubborn in a number. Oh, this house around Concomate is going for $600,000. That doesn't make any sense. Nothing really makes sense if you really think about it. The value of a home is what someone's willing to pay for it. And I've seen people be on the sidelines, friends, family, since the pandemic that have been saying, oh, you're crazy. But now the houses I purchased during the pandemic have gone up, 30, 40%, some of them. So if I were to listen to the public, the right time to buy is when it makes sense for you. Your lender will let you know what you can afford, but you guys speak together what you're actually comfortable with, because those are two separate numbers.
Sure.
But I would block out all the outside noise. The house is going to be somewhere you're going to raise a family. You're going to make memories and things like that. I think you have to kind of block out all the outside noise, because there's never going to be a perfect time, the perfect house that just had a price cut and rates dropped, and you're going to end up just renting your whole life. So a lot of people I speak with, I try and walk them away from the payment's a big part. There's nowhere to hide from a monthly payment these days. It's high. The rates are high. The prices are high. But there are ways to look into it and say, hey, listen, let's say this house appreciates at 6% a year. That's $2,500 a month of invisible income you're getting from this property. This will be your stepping stone to your forever home. A lot of people want that, that house in New Hyde Park, the $1 million house, but you have to start at, a starter home, a lot of people. So I'd say that is the big thing. And the next big thing is making a plan, because it's hard to fall into home ownership. You will benefit yourself if you get your credit score in order, you save, you get your income in order, don't switch jobs. If you really want to buy a house, get with a lender and actually make a plan, because if you fail to plan, you're planning to fail. This is something a lot of people say. So I think making a set plan, and I tell clients too, when we go through the loan estimate, which is the hardest part of my job, because that's when you have to say, here's what the numbers are, and people look at the closing costs in New York, and I've had people curse me out because they think I'm the one who's making up New York transfer tax. But I've told people, hey, listen, here's the cash we need to close. Even if you have to eat ramen for a couple of weeks while we go through the closing, this is the dream, the homeownership dream. And a lot of people out there are doing the crazy spending. If you make a plan, pinch pennies, whatever you got to do to get to the point, I think homeownership's worth it. I think anyone who owns a home will say it. There's a lot of headaches with it, but what I think like it. Yeah, I really think it's the key to generational wealth. My son, he's 10 years old, he's outside. When I see all these places I own, I would love to sell them and cash out and stuff, but I really see that as his financial future.
Sure. Because
I don't plan on selling anything. If I can just pull out equity and leave them to him to either manage or, to one day do what he pleases. But, most younger people are able to purchase homes just because, their parents had a home that either pulled that equity or sold it to help them. It's really a good way to create generational wealth.
Awesome. So get a plan. The market's never going to be perfect, but the dream is real.
Yeah, I think
that's in line with this program.
Here, yeah. And again, I'm in the business, so a lot of people say like, oh, it's to your benefit. I mean, I've been on both sides of it.
Sure.
And again, there is a time and a place to rent. I'll never say it's always the perfect thing, but I've been to the closings personally, and I've ran the numbers on, extrapolated it to what it's going to be in 10 years. And Long Island's a market where there's not many places you can construct and build houses. So I really don't see this market really slowing down. It's not like down in Texas where they're just constructing major facilities and large complexes and units and apartments. There's really nowhere else to go on Long Island.
If we're surrounded by water.
You have to buy.
Yeah.
So you can rent forever, but that's my 2 cents about it.
Powerful insight. So we're gonna have to have you back, because I want to hear about that deal that you've got going.
Yeah, anytime,
and really good stuff. So how can the audience get in touch with you?
I'm big on social media, so Instagram on Mortgages by Hart, HART, and then phone number 631-649-2989, and I'm at Interstate Home Loan Center.
Awesome. Well, thank you for joining us, and thank you as well for joining us. This is the Dream is Real podcast. Make sure you check us out Instagram. It's at Dream Select Realty. Same with TikTok. If you want to catch us on X, it's at Dream Select Home. If you want to be part of the program, email us at hometeam@dreamselectrealty.com, and we'll see you next time. Remember, the dream is real.